Realme 6 is here and it is a massive upgrade over the Realme 5. There are serious improvements across the board and the specs alone make this phone a paper tiger for sure. But do all those beefy specs translate into real world performance, and how does it compare against its immediate competitor, the Redmi Note 8 Pro? Well, I'm Ershad from Mr. Phone, and that's what we're going to find out in our review of the Realme 6 and compare it against the Redmi Note 8 Pro as well. But before we move on, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button and the bell icon right next to it to get notified whenever Mr. Phone puts out an awesome new tech video, and we're going to put out more videos around the Realme 6, the Realme 6 Pro and the Realme Band, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Here's the thing, the main reason why anyone would be interested in the Realme 6 is definitely the MediaTek Helio G90T processor inside the phone. It is a powerhouse, no doubt. I reviewed the 8GB 128GB variant and it crunched through benchmarks like a pro. Under Rs 20,000, the Realme 6 along with the Redmi Note 8 Pro are possibly the most powerful phones you can buy today. You can take a look at the benchmark comparisons for yourself to see. However, what matters is day-to-day performance, and the Realme 6 didn't stutter once and it was extremely fast and responsive. In fact, I've had a more stable experience on the Realme 6 compared to the Redmi Note 8 Pro and even the Poco X2 for that matter. The phone also keeps apps in memory for a long time. Gaming on this phone is also a treat, obviously. If you are a PUBG fan, you're gonna love the fact that I could play the game at HDR and Ultra, which is 40 FPS, setting easily with very few frame drops. In fact, I'm more of a Call of Duty fan and that game plays smoothly as well. You can stretch it to max frame rates on high graphics, but you can also play at very high graphics with Bloom on. Plus you also get a fast UFS 2.1 storage with excellent read and write speeds as well. However, there is an issue with the G90T, and that was an issue with the Redmi Note 8 Pro as well. The phone does tend to get warm around the camera module after about an hour of gaming. That said, if you're looking purely for a performance oriented phone, then your search ends here and here. Alright, let's talk about the design. There's nothing new here. No, really. It looks a lot like the Realme XT and the X2, only with a plastic back. And now that is the biggest downside, considering even the Note 8 Pro has a glass back. Now, is similarity in design language necessarily a bad thing? Not really, because how often can you actually iterate on industrial design when phones are launching at such rapid pace? Now, by the way, this is the Comet White variant of the phone. It is not entirely white, it has a bit of gradient, but I quite like it. I like white phones in general. Now, if that's not your scene, then you can definitely pick the Comet Blue variant instead. Now, what I like about the Realme 6's design is that it is grippier compared to the Redmi Note 8 Pro. One, because it has a plastic bag, and two, because it is not as wide. So, the ergonomics, despite being fairly thick at 8.9mm, are pretty good. It also helps that the rear is curved gently. As for the frame, it is reinforced by metal on the inside, but has a mixture of plastic and glass fiber on the outside. I am still not a fan. Also, I'm not a fan of that monstrous camera bump on the rear. It protrudes out at least 0.7mm and wobbles on the table like a drunk Devdas missing Paru. Anyway, you have the power button on the right, which also doubles up as the side-mounted fingerprint sensor. And as side-mounted fingerprint scanners go, this one is also super fast. I actually prefer side-mounted scanners. The face unlock is blazing fast too, but not very secure. The volume rocker is on the left, along with a triple slot card tray that can take 2 nano SIM cards and a micro SD card. There's a Type-C port at the bottom with USB 2.0 spec. The headphone jack and the speaker grill are on either sides of this Type-C port. The 3.5mm headphone jack can drive earphones really loud, but it tends to favor the bass frequencies. The mono speaker can get loud, but it does get shrill at maximum volume. So overall, not the best audio performance on a Realme phone, let alone any other phone. What was once a feature limited to flagship smartphones has now trickled down to budget phones as well. Yes, I'm talking about the beautiful high refresh rate display. After the Poco X2's 120Hz panel, the Realme 6 series is the first to get a 90Hz panel under Rs 20,000. This makes a whole world of difference to the usage experience. I have said this before and I will say this again, I will take a high refresh rate display over an AMOLED panel any day. Now, coming to the 6.5-inch in-cell LCD panel on the Realme 6, it has a resolution of 1080 by 2400 and an aspect ratio of 20:9. So what I noticed is this display has a very cool color temperature by default. Also, it has a lower peak brightness level compared to the Redmi Note 8 Pro. Another thing I noticed is the auto brightness is way too aggressive. I think Realme is doing this on purpose to save on battery. Moving on, both the phones come with wideband L1 and HDR video playback support, but it works only in the YouTube app. The phones cannot play back Netflix videos even in HD, let alone HDR, which is disappointing. Another thing I noticed about the Realme 6 is that the oleophobic coating is almost non-existent. A couple of swipes and scrolls on the display and my oily fingers deposited so much grease on the display that US is planning to send its army to capture it. Okay, sorry for the bad joke. Anyway, the Note 8 Pro also has a smaller chin and better haptic feedback. But the Realme 6 trumps it with the punch hole at the top right corner that generally stays hidden in regular usage. Finally, you do not get an always-on display since this is not an AMOLED panel, nor do you get a notification LED, which is of course another letdown for sure. Now the Realme 6 runs on Android 10 with Realme UI skin on top of it. I have an entire video dedicated to Realme UI, you must go check it out. For budget phones, I really like how clean the whole UI looks and feels pretty responsive too. If you're patient enough to play around with the customization settings, you can get an uninterrupted, ad-free and notification-free experience on a budget phone which looks very similar to stock Android. I quite enjoyed the experience of using Realme UI on the Realme 6, especially with the 90Hz goodness. The Realme 6 carries forward the same 64 megapixel quad camera setup that started with the Realme XT. On the Realme 6 you get a 64 megapixel main camera with a Samsung GW1 sensor, an 8 megapixel wide angle camera and a couple of 2 megapixel sensors doing mono and macro. Now I shot a few pictures alongside the Note 8 Pro and here's a mini camera comparison for you guys. In regular daylight shots of landscape you can clearly see that the Redmi Note 8 Pro has better exposure control, plus when you zoom into certain portions of the image you will also find it to be crisper. Way crisper. Even the 64 megapixel samples definitely offer more details. Plus it has larger file size as well, which further corroborates our findings. Now I don't like the 8 megapixel wide angle camera on both the phones, but the Realme 6 has a more even exposure across the picture despite the better details on the Redmi Note 8 Pro. In close-ups, the Realme 6 redeems itself with crisper details in the image of this flower, but the color accuracy is better on the Redmi Note 8 Pro. Take a look at the details at closer crop. When it comes to macros, the Redmi Note 8 Pro is clearly leagues better than the Realme 6 because it can focus as close as 2.5cm compared to the 4cm on the Realme 6. The difference in details is immediately apparent in the two shots here. When it comes to portraits, the Redmi Note 8 Pro is again better with slightly cleaner edge cutout and a natural looking face tone. Plus there is no skin smoothing like we can see on the Realme 6's portrait. In daylight selfies and selfie portraits, you can clearly see that the Realme 6 is absolutely excellent. From no overexposed spots to a very pleasing facial tone, the Realme 6 is just as great at selfies as any other Realme phones that we have tested in the past. Realme has really nailed the selfie algorithm and I want Xiaomi to take a leaf out of Realme's book here. Indoors, the Redmi redeems itself, but not so much that I can discount the excellent selfie performance on the Realme 6 in normal situations. However, I'm slightly disappointed that Realme has removed the night mode for selfies in the Realme 6. Both the phones can shoot 4K videos using the rear camera but offer no image stabilization. There is some focus hunting in the Realme footage, but it lights up the face evenly and the dynamic range performance is better too. But the Redmi Note 8 Pro definitely has better sound recording. Hey guys, now we're shooting a 4K 30fps video using the Redmi Note 8 Pro and the Realme 6. Do let me know in the comment section below what you thought about the image quality, image stabilization and the sound recording as Porush pans me around and shows you guys what happens when the light is against me and what kind of footage you get. I have similar observations for the 1080p 30fps footage with the exception of image stabilization, which is on par on both the phones. In 1080p 30fps selfie videos, the Realme 6 once again comes out on top purely because of the excellent dynamic range. Indoors, it is surprising to see how near identical the pictures look from the Redmi Note 8 Pro and the Realme 6. Honestly, if you don't pixel peep, you really cannot tell the difference. But once you pixel peep, you will notice that the noise correction algorithm is aggressive and ends up making the picture soft. The Redmi Note 8 Pro retains the details. In low light shots with night mode off, the Realme 6 has a slightly better exposure, but you can see traces of splotching around the corners. You will also notice that it has blown out the highlights. With night mode on, the Redmi Note 8 Pro offers a far cleaner image with excellent noise correction and more details as well. So when it comes to cameras on the Realme 6, in most scenarios I found the Redmi Note 8 Pro's algorithm to be better in almost every way with sharp details across the board. Maybe you need Gcam for better pictures on the Realme 6. Although I'm glad that Realme has fixed the algorithm to reduce the oversaturation, and that's definitely a step in the right direction. Also, most importantly, the Realme definitely takes better selfies and is also better at videos as well. Now the phone has a 4300 mAh battery inside and it lasts really long despite powering a high refresh rate display. You literally won't have to worry about your battery lasting an entire day even if you switch on the refresh rate to 90 Hz. In fact, I got a very good screen on time of around 6 hours 52 minutes and in general it was above the 6-hour mark, which is excellent for a 90 Hz panel. Using the 30-watt fast charger, you can also charge the battery in under an hour, which is again excellent. You really can't get any better than that from a phone in this price range. As far as network connectivity goes, the Realme 6 can do dual VoLTE and VO Wi-Fi with ease. Plus, you also get excellent network performance on Airtel's 4G network in Delhi. I have been trying it out extensively. Anyway, the call quality is good from the earpiece, but the environmental noise cancellation, on the other side when somebody is talking could have been better. Now, Xiaomi's phones are definitely slightly better in that respect. What I'm certain of after using the Realme 6 is that the company has completely different ideas for the phone. What it wants to do is actually rise up, make significant performance improvements so that it can justify a price bump. And in that scenario, those performance jumps actually make a whole world of difference to regular usage. And in my experience, that makes the Realme 6 a lot more desirable. Now, I don't have a clue of the price, but the base variant of the Realme 6 should be priced around the Redmi Note 8 Pro. The base variant is the 4GB, 64GB variant. So I'm guessing it should be priced under rupees 14,000 or there and thereabouts. Now, at that price, the Realme 6 is still excellent value for money. But I'm sure that a lot of people who actually, have been following Realme would be slightly disappointed saying that, okay, fine, the Realme 5 was around the 10,000 price range. So the Realme 6 should also be around that price range. But that's definitely not the case here. But you know what? This is a strategic shift for the company considering the fact that it opens up the 10 to 12,000 price category for something like a Realme 6i to exist if and when it launches, or if at all it launches. Okay, by the way, while throughout the video I did compare the Realme 6 to the Redmi Note 8 Pro a lot. The Redmi Note 8 Pro could soon become outdated when the Redmi Note 9 series launches, which is actually happening on March 12th. We all know about it as well. So by that time, this comparison would be moot, but until then, at least you know that the Realme 6 and the Redmi Note 8 Pro, how they stand and how they fare. Now, when the Redmi Note 9 or Note 9 Pro or whichever phone launches comes about, I am definitely going to compare it against the Realme 6, so stay tuned for that comparison as well. So what did you guys think of this review of the Realme 6? Do let me know in the comment section below. Until next time, this is Ershad from Mr. Phone signing off. Goodbye and Godspeed, my friends.